EXS Live is an opinion-based program. All opinions, comments, or statements made by our show hosts or guests are strictly their own. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey everybody, here at EXS Live, what we're going to try to do on a weekly basis, for those of you that haven't had a chance to listen to our show in the past, is we're going to play clips of interviews that we've done with past guests. This week we're going to be playing a guest from the year 2012, which was Amy Scobee. She is a former member of the Church of Scientology, and she was also the niece of a deceased American astronaut, Dick Scobee. Now, during her involvement with the church, she spent most of her time in the Sea Org, a body which oversees the church's day-to-day operations. She also wrote a book, Scientology, Abuse at the Top. She joined the church at the age of 14. This is an episode that when we played, we had over 15,000 live listeners at the time. So I hope you enjoy, give you a little bit of a taste of our background and some of the guests that we've had in the past. I hope you enjoy Amy Scobee on EXS Live. All right, so tonight's guest will be Amy Scobee, which we're going to go ahead and try to get her connected now. Matt, you're still with us, right, buddy?
I'm still here.
All right, so we're going to talk about her book and learn a little bit more about the whole Scientology craze, especially that's been making a lot of news as of late. So hopefully we'll be able to get
connected. Do you want me to give a little background while you're doing that?
I'm sure, but real quick, Amy, are you with us?
Oh, she's there.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh.
Yes, we can hear you good. We got a little bit of an echo, though.
Say that again?
Okay, now you sound good. Actually, no, you'll have to turn down PC in the background.
You there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We're getting a little bit of echo. Do you have your computer on, possibly?
My computer? Yeah.
That's
Can you mute your speakers? We're getting an echo from your computer.
Okay, so if I mute my speakers, let's see, how do I do that?
How can you hear us? Is that the...
There, now I don't hear an echo. I think we're good.
Is she there, though?
I am here.
Oh, perfect.
There we go.
Let me see if I mute my microphone, if you can hear me. You ready? No, not my microphone. How do I
No,
mute
don't do
it?
that. It worked. Whatever you did worked.
Yeah, it's all good now.
Okay, good.
All right, well, welcome to the show. We appreciate you joining us, and we actually got off to a little bit of a rough start, too, with technical issues, so we apologize for that. And, again, we appreciate having you on the show. We've definitely been excited about it, and I know a lot of our listeners have been, too. So, again, the main website that you have is ScobeePublishing.com, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And is that the preferred place that you would like our listeners to be able to obtain your book?
Yes, if they go to ScobeePublishing.com. My book is also available on Amazon.com, both in Kindle version and hard copy.
Oh, okay.
Well, just to introduce who we have in the studio really quick, we have Kimberly.
Boy. Hi, Amy. This is Kimberly.
Hi, Kimberly.
We've got me, Jim, and we also got Matt from Columbus on the line with us.
Hello.
Hello.
We are usually so much more pulled together than this. I don't know what's going on tonight, but...
Not really.
I think but we're so happy to have you, Amy. You want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself? We actually didn't do much of an intro for you, other than you used to be with the Church of Scientology. Here in the studio, we know pretty much your background, but you want to give our listeners a little bit of info about yourself?
Sure. So I joined Scientology when I was 14 years old. My mother brought me into the local place here up in the Seattle area. And I started some courses when I was 14. And I shortly thereafter joined staff full-time. I quit school. I never saw a day of high school. And then when I was 16, I joined what's called the Sea Organization. And the Sea Organization is where you actually sign on for 1 billion years to get to dedicate the rest of this life, as well as any potential future life, for the cause.
Did you just say you sign on for 1 billion years?
Yes, that's the contract that you sign.
Oh my.
When you join the Sea organization, it's the highest religious order in Scientology. It's the management of all Scientology churches around the world. And so it's the upper echelons, and it's the most dedicated. So
Wow.
I was 16 years old and I joined.
So is Sea Org, this is Matt, so is Sea Org kind of like analogous to the Jesuit order of Scientology?
Probably. I mean, I'm not very familiar with other religions because after I left Scientology, I decided I wasn't going to be going into another religion for a very long time. But yes,
Understandable.
it's the top management of Scientology. It's a live-in, work-in situation where you live there, you eat in the mess hall, you birth there, and you don't have another life. You just work full-time and sometimes around the clock.
Okay, I have a quick question. All right, this is Matt from Columbus. Just to lay the groundwork for anybody out there, which may be a lot, who don't really have any familiarity with Scientology, can you summarize what is Scientology about for your average person that gets into it? What do they believe? What do they teach? What is involved with becoming a Scientologist? Like, what are the kind of the founding doctrines of Scientology?
All right. It's a long subject, but just in general, Scientologists believe that you're a spiritual being, that you've lived before, and that you will continue to go on living lifetime after lifetime, and that any troubles that you have in your mind currently is from incidents that have occurred in your past, and that can be addressed through counseling using what's called an e-meter. And what an e-meter is a kind of a device that registers currents that pass through your body. You hold on to electrodes, and it's a very low voltage, but it will register when you have a change or shift in mental mass. So, so there's questions that direct your attention onto things in your past lives and stuff like that you address in your auditing. And that brings about relief and cured situations. I've seen people have a lot of wins with it. The sad thing is that the organization itself is so corrupt. I spent 27 years in Scientology. I worked at the very top of the organization for 20 years. That's in Hemet, California. It's international management base there where is responsible for the management of Scientology, including celebrity centers and the Scientology churches everywhere. So I was responsible for the celebrity centers and the Scientology churches for a number of years. And it wasn't until I saw and witnessed so much abuse going on that I actually decided that I needed to get out of there. And it was kind of like needing to escape. And it wasn't an easy task, that's for sure.
And you're married or were married, I'm not sure if you still are, to another member of the Sea Org, correct?
Yes, when I was in Scientology, I was married for 17 years to someone who actually left before I did. But then when I was trying to leave, I connected up with the person who's my current husband. His name is Matt as well. And
okay.
he and I decided to leave together and worked out a whole plan in order to get out of there. So, and within about 2 weeks after we left, we got married. We've been married ever since, and we left in 2005.
Good for you. Very good.
So what does it? I'm just trying to understand some of the basics here because I'm fascinated by Scientology, but it's kind of confusing to outsiders. So how did you initially get involved with not masonry with Scientology?
Oh my!
So how did you initially get involved with Scientology, and like what do you do when you first join? Like what do they have you do?
All right. Well,
how did you get involved with the org?
Okay. What happened was. My mother, she used to be a draftsman, and she worked with somebody who was a Scientologist, and that person told her a little bit about Scientology and told her that she should come into an introductory lecture, which she did. She was in Scientology for several months before I even found out about it. How I found out about it at age 14 was I received a phone call from it's called a mission. It's a small church called a mission in Bellevue, Washington. I received this phone call. And they said it was from the Church of Scientology. And I said, well, my mom's not here. And they said, we don't want to talk to your mom. We want to talk to you. And I was surprised by that. Like, how did they even know I existed, And why would they be interested in me whatsoever? So so I listened, and basically what he said is that he understands that I'm a really intelligent person with a lot of potential, and that I should come in for an interview and to see what they can, provide that might help them with my future. So it was really kind of a mystery sandwich for me, and I was really curious, why are they interested in me? What do they have to offer? What is this all about? So I asked my mom about it, and she said that she would take me in. When I went into the mission, I was interviewed, and it was flatter bomb left, right, and center. They were flattering me about how capable I looked and all this kind of stuff, and that I should do the communications course. And that was probably $80 or something like that. So I borrowed $80 from my mom, and I enrolled on the communications course. I had fun doing that. And after that, I was approached by the people on staff to actually join staff and work with them. So I signed up. I got parental consent from my mother, and I signed up. And then I joined full time, and I did nothing but work on staff there.
And at that point in time, then how soon after that did you live at the facility, or at some facility?
Probably about a year and a half. My mom wanted me to turn 16 years old before I went away from home. Because I was going by myself. I'd never left, I'd never gotten on an airplane before in my life, let alone. So I turned 16 and I left, and I went a couple weeks after my 16th birthday. I arrived in Los Angeles, and that was 1979.
Now, did your mom stay with the church?
She did, but she stayed up in the Seattle area for the longest time, because she was working on staff at the organization here locally.
Now, one of the things that I thought was interesting, I guess I read a little bit too, and, we're all interested in the whole celebrity connection, and why does it seem like it's such a big deal? Most celebrities, we don't know particularly what religion they subscribe to, where they pray, if they pray. But for Scientology celebrities, we all know, Kirstie Alley and John Travolta and Tom Cruise. And you built the network, or you worked with building the network of the Scientology celebrity centers. Was that actually a means to grow Scientology, to try to pull celebrities in to spread the word? Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, tell us about that.
There's a strategy by L. Ron Hubbard, who's the founder of the religion. And the strategy was to get in big name celebrities and people with a lot of influence, and make them into walking success stories of Scientology so that they would spread the word. That was a huge strategy, important undertaking, and my project basically for a number of years. I spent probably almost a decade on that. And it was, and everything to do with it, like building the Manor Hotel down at Franklin Avenue down there in Hollywood.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
is it
renovations. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I've seen the Church of Scientology that's right down there off of Hollywood Boulevard, I believe. Is that where, is the Manor near that?
That is the Manor.
It is. Okay.
It's an old Fifield Manor, and it's now the home of Celebrity Center International. And we renovated it so that top celebrities could come in, and no one on the entire property would even know it. There's a back entrance, and they come up through the president's office. And then when you go upstairs, they've got private course rooms and private counseling rooms. So anyone else in the place doesn't know if a top celebrity comes in there. And that's kind of like an important thing for other celebrities to bring in their friends who don't want necessarily to be exposed that they're in there finding out what Scientology is.
What do you think the draw is to the, because, and I also forgot, isn't Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith also in Scientology, in the Church of Scientology? I don't
think so. They never were when I was in Scientology. And
okay, so maybe just rumors.
I've seen Will deny it. I think that they've adopted some of the study technology for their schools and stuff like that, but I think that that's as far as that goes.
Okay. So what do you think the draw is to these celebrities? Why are they so interested in being part of this church?
Well, probably the most popular introductory service that was done at Celebrity Center was the Purification Rundown. The Purification Rundown is where you sit in a sauna and you take vitamins and you do exercise and you do all this stuff in order to release the toxins and drug residues in your body, and you feel quite refreshed after that. So that was a real kind of really popular service for the celebrities, and because they need to feel good and look good all the time.
Right.
You know? So, and then there's courses about communication and the tone scale, which are things that are important to artists and particularly actors and actresses. And they also do specialized things that are for celebrities, like career counseling services and stuff like that. So these are the things that kind of draw them in. The only thing is, like, you know, when you're in the celebrities are so shielded against the internal laundry and workings of the organization and anything that's actually foul about the place, because you're assigned a condition of treason and you're demoted and you're, you know, in big trouble if any of that stuff makes it onto a celebrity's lines. It's supposed to be snap and pop, perfect service, perfect image, you know, the best in staff and service and image. That's what L. Ron Hubbard wanted for celebrities, because they need to be happy with Scientology so that they will promote it, because the mission to, quote unquote, clear the planet, rid the planet of the reactive mind and salvage this sector of the universe, which is their goal, can't be achieved by just a few people handing out flyers around the world. They, you know, if you have an influential person say Scientology is good, then you're going to get an avalanche of people coming in for Scientology.
Smart. It's sort of like it's sort of like the Beverly Hills Hotel of churches.
There you go. That's right.
Right, so it deliberately caters to the rich and influential people in society.
Definitely, deliberately, yes.
So okay. So we'll just ask this: is there any truth to the allegations, right, about the secret scrolls of Scientology and about the stories about Emperor Xenu and all this stuff that is hidden from the regular Scientologists until they achieve some certain level?
Yes, yeah, for sure. That's all considered. That if you read those materials before your case or your situation, you were personally set up for it, and you achieve, because you're supposed to take things on a gradient and you do this service, then the next one, then the next one, and you have to go in sequence. So if you find out about it beforehand, you're supposed to get sick, and you know, it's very damaging for you. This is what L. Ron Hubbard said. So it's kept confidential to all parishioners until they're ready for it, and when they're ready for it, they go into a course room by themselves and read the materials. And you know, it's I don't know. When I first read it, it was a bit of a surprise, because I'd been in Scientology probably 15 years before I even knew a single thing about that.
Well, so, and that's what's very interesting to me, obviously, since L. Ron Hubbard was a science fiction author. And so I would imagine, I can only imagine that when you hear this stuff, that it would sound completely incredible, like literally unbelievable that this stuff could possibly be true.
Well, you know, the only thing is, like, you've had several wins along the way, and you're supposed to have the stable datum basically in Scientology that what's true for you is what you observe yourself, you know, and that's the only thing that's true for you. It's not like shoved down your throat. But it actually is shoved down your throat, but it's not supposed to be. So you are supposed to be able to read something and decide, does that work for me or not, and eliminate the things that don't and stuff like that. And use the things that do. But they have a policy called Keeping Scientology Working, and that's, I don't know if you remember that video that Tom Cruise did where he's talking about KSW and keeping Scientology working, and that you're either in it or you're not, and you do it 100% or you're out, you know. And that's how the organization has gotten to with regards to the technology and the ethics policies and everything. It's extremely strict, and you can't actually think for yourself in that organization, even though they promote that they're trying to achieve that. It's the opposite now.
And I've actually heard, and we were discussing this earlier before you came on, that that the writings of L. Ron Hubbard, right, like Dianetics and Battlefield Earth, are actually venerated almost like sacred texts within the Church of Scientology. Is that true?
Battlefield Earth is just a book. It's not part of his writings about Scientology at all.
So it's just another science.
Is it given any kind of special treatment?
Well, because it's written by LRH, everything that L. Ron Hubbard did was kind of revered by Scientologists. He wrote all sorts of short stories and books and stuff like that, but not, there's nothing in it that somebody thinks is part of the technology or anything like that.
What about Dianetics?
Well, Dianetics was book one. It's the book that they say started it all, and it's the initial discovery of the reactive mind and how to deal with it. It's a book that was on the bestseller for a long, long time.
And I'm sorry.
And it's a self-help book, and so people could just do it without being part of an organization. They could read it, and then if they liked it, do the procedure with one of their friends. It's
And what exactly does the reactive mind mean? Is it as simple as it sounds?
Kind of. It's like this. It's like, okay, so you are a spiritual being, and then you have a body, and you have a mind, and your mind is broken down in two parts. One is the analytical, aware mind, and the other part of it is your reactive mind, which is the subconscious mind, which you're not aware of. And how that part of your mind is created is through times of pain and unconsciousness. Like if you have an accident, you're unconscious, but you can hear sirens are going on, somebody's saying, oh, he'll never walk again, or whatever. All that stuff is recorded, even though you're not awake and aware. It gets recorded in the reactive mind, and then all of a sudden, this person's on crutches and he can never walk again. But when he goes in session, and to address his reactive mind, he might realize, oh my God, the person told me I would never walk again, and then now he throws his crutches away. That's the concept. It doesn't always work like that, but that's the concept.
Oh, okay. So it's almost like it's saying that all diseases and whatnot are actually psychosomatic?
Yeah, yes, for sure.
Well, that's exactly what Tom Cruise has touted on different shows about, psychiatric medicines, RBS. You can make yourself better and that type of thing,
that's one of the things, by the way, that makes Scientology dangerous, because they have such a war against drugs and medications and so on. They're not doctors, and so when somebody actually seriously needs treatment, they'd rather do a hands-on touch assist and whatever, these kind of things, and not. And I think that there's severe neglect because of that.
Well, and that was something I wanted to ask, because it's horrible, but I know there have been rumors that there was a possibility that John Travolta's son was not taking his prescribed medication because the church did not agree with what he was supposed to be taking, and therefore he had a seizure, and that was what consequently led to his death. What do you think about that rumor?
I heard the same thing, and I would definitely tend to believe it based on my knowledge of being in Scientology.
Interesting.
The other thing that just struck me about that was I remember when Suri Cruise was born, Tom Cruise had ordered all the something called a silent birth, right? All the doctors, and nobody could make any noise or talk or anything because they were afraid that it would imprint a negative energy on the baby when it was born. So that kind of goes along with that.
Yes, because the birth is kind of it's called an engram, which is a time of pain and unconsciousness, is a kind of an engrammic experience for a baby and for the mother. So when you speak or make noises or say things that could be laid in as engrams into the reactive mind, you don't want that. So you want them to be silent so that it can be as nice of an experience as possible.
So, and when you do auditing sessions with this e-meter, right, they talk about thetans. What exactly is a thetan?
It's a thetan, like an A, thetan.
Like
that's
Satan?
the spiritual being. That's the spirit.
And so the spiritual beings are like demonic negative energy forces that attach themselves to the psyche of the person?
That sounds so funny when you say it like that. Well, it's hard to describe it. Let me just tell you. Okay, you are a spiritual. This is what Scientology believes. They believe that you're a spiritual being, which is good. There's a lot, that's okay. There's a lot of people that believe that, and I think that's wonderful. It's probably the only thing I've retained from Scientology after I left. But it believes in terms of these other thetans being attached to you. They believe that there was an incident many millions of years ago that created so much chaos and upset that millions and millions of people or thetans or beings were so confused that they all kind of conglomerated together. And that when you get up high in Scientology, you can, using the e-meter, locate them and move them through the incident so that they blow off and they can go have their own life again.
So it is, in a way, I'm trying to understand this, like, in a way that is more commonly understood, right? So it's almost like you're exorcising demons that have attached themselves to the person's spirit or psyche. In a way, is that kind of analogous?
Yeah, that's okay, except for demons is probably a wrong word, because they're not evil in any way, and it's just that they're there, they're confused, they're lost, type of thing.
And what does the symbolism of the erupting volcano have to do with Scientology? Because you see that on Dianetics. What is the meaning behind the volcano symbolism? It's
the incident 75 million years ago involved blowing up volcanoes with H-bombs, and the beings were placed over the volcanoes when the eruption was done. So it's like an incident that's supposed to be shared by everybody, and so when you see that, you'll recognize it subliminally and want to come into Scientology.
So it's kind of like an archetypal symbol, kind of like a collective memory of humanity.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, you talked about that the celebrities or whomever, wealthy people, or that they really want to impress, they have them come in and do this cleansing. Now, does that have to do with the I know you had a really bad experience with having to do a similar thing with niacin and hours of in the what did you call it?
It's a sauna.
A sauna. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, usually it takes like a week, maybe 2 weeks, depending on how heavy of a drug history the person has, or or toxic exposure.
Uh-huh.
So usually it's really fast. And I've done the purification program 3 times, but the head of the Church of Scientology right now, his name is David Miscavige. That's Tom Cruise's best man at his wedding and his best friend. Is really a sociopath, and he's not only does he commit assault and battery on the top executives of Scientology, he's verbally abusive as well as physically abusive, and he does things that are really dangerous. Like one of the things that he did was put several of the top executives, including myself, onto the purification program. On an extended purification program, because he said the reason why you're all incompetent is because of your drug histories. Even though I had almost no drug history and I did 2 purification programs before, I was put on this thing 5 hours a day for 8 straight months. And I'm taking 5,000 niacin a day, every day. I swear to God, I just wanted to blow the roof off of that sauna. I was like, it was way too much. I didn't know. All I could think of was escaping. It was just wrong, and I felt like I was physically being damaged by it.
Do you feel Oh, sorry, Matt. I was just going to ask, do you feel that there have been any sort of long-term or has there been any sort of long-term damage to your body based on those high levels of niacin?
My answer to that is yes. And I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which... Oh,
yeah.
This is my doctor. I didn't know what it was. My whole body was starting to shut down right before I left Scientology, and then it kept getting worse and worse and worse, to the point where I couldn't even hold my arms above my head. I couldn't tap my feet to music because just my body was shutting down. I gained a ton of weight. My glands were really swollen. And in Scientology, 27 years, I didn't go to, I never got medical treatment at all. Female checkups, nothing, none of that, because you're not your body and you kind of push through, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so when I left Scientology, I thought, after a little while, when it was getting so bad, I said, I actually need to see a doctor. And I'm not under their thumb anymore. I'm going to go see a doctor. So I actually started with a blood test, and my levels were so bad that they said that if I didn't immediately handle it, I had 2 more years to live. And it was a real wake-up call. So I got onto the handling of that. And, I mean, it's amazing. I lost like 40 pounds. I am completely normal now. I have to take thyroid pills every single day for the rest of my life. But my doctor said, because there's no history of this anywhere in my family, she was trying to isolate when did it start and why did this start, because it's so dramatic. it started shortly after the purification program.
So,
Wow.
so when you actually decided to leave Scientology, how did that come about, and how was it received by your family? I mean, what happened there that caused your flight from Scientology?
Okay, well, I was in the Rehabilitation Project Force, and what the Rehabilitation Project Force is when you get in trouble in the Sea organization, you are sent to basically like this camp of outcasts, basically, that are still in the Sea organization, that you're meant to do hard manual labor and do extensive confessionals to find, to correct you. And it goes on for years. I mean, some of the people were in there for a decade. I was in there for 2 years. I was a total of 5.5 years I spent on the Rehabilitation Project Force. And so if you get in trouble, like you have sex with somebody before you get married or something, this is like a big taboo. You get sent to the Rehabilitation Project Force, and you are cut off from any communication with anybody, even fellow Sea Org members. The only people that you can talk to are the other people in the Rehabilitation Project Force. So I'm on this program for my 3rd time. And knowing that David Miscavige is in charge of Scientology and that he's extremely evil and abusive, I did not want to stay. When I said I wanted to leave, I broke it to the person who was in charge with my husband, Matt. We weren't married at the time. We said that we want to leave together. So immediately we were both separated, put under 24-hour security watch, placed on intensive labor and like 5 to 8 hours a day in confessionals asking for what our crimes were and transgressions. So I was fed beans and rice for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I was made to sign all sorts of documents that basically said that that I was a criminal and that I would never speak out against Scientology. I would never disclose anything that went on inside the organization. But by that time, after 2 months, I was like, I'll sign anything. It was all written as if I had written it, and I just had to sign my name. It was videoed. My signing it was videoed so that they could use it against me. There was places where it said that I could never live because it was close to Scientology and everything like that. So, and one of the things is the only reason why I even stayed and I didn't just hop the fence because I really felt like hopping the fence was because I thought that if I stayed and did all the things that they were requiring of me, that I wouldn't be declared a suppressive person, which they do to people who just take off without going through the procedure.
What does that mean, a suppressive?
It's a suppressive person is a label. It's a label in Scientology. You're excommunicated from all Scientologists, and
so like shunned.
Yeah, but that you're basically 2% of the population that want to see it destroyed, and you're labeled in that category. And all Scientologists are meant to disconnect from any connection with you. Now, when you have family members in and you have all your friends and that's all you know, you don't want to be declared. And I'm leaving and I'm going back to the Seattle area where my mom is, who I love, and I have missed tremendously since I've been away my whole life. And now I'm going to be disconnected from her. So they declared me anyway, even though I stayed through and did all that stuff. And I wasn't allowed to leave until my husband, Matt, at the time said, if you don't release us by noon the next day, then I'm going to grab Amy. We hadn't talked to each other at all. We realized we were completely separated, even though he did sneak a note to me saying he was going to bust me out of there. But he told them on video camera, if you don't let us out by noon the next day, I'm going to grab Amy and I'm going to bust through the gates, and you're not going to be able to stop me unless you shoot me in the head. And they know he's serious because he's not a mess around guy. And they did get us out of there. But they sent us, without telling us where the other person was, they sent us in 2 different directions completely and confiscated all of our address books and stuff like that so that we couldn't find each other. It took us a couple days, but we did find each other.
Wow. So, okay. Well, Kim, did you...
what an experience. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. And now I did find something interesting that you were listed number 18 of the top 25 people crippling Scientology, which kind of cracks me up because I think of mostly these things that they do cripple themselves.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. But so I'm assuming, does this have to do with because you released a book then after you came out, and how long was it after you left that you wrote this book, and what's your book about?
Okay, so in 2009, my mom and I were sneaking, seeing each other, even though I was declared a suppressive person. And the reason why we had to sneak is because her husband was still in Scientology and on service, and he paid a lot of money for that, so
Right.
and he still intended to continue. And she couldn't play both ways, she either had to be declared with me and be out of Scientology and not have a house, a husband, and everything that she's been with him for 30 years, or stay with her husband and disconnect from me. And since the church private investigators were following us and knew the fact that my mom and I were sneaking, seeing each other, they put a lot of pressure on my stepdad. So my mom did disconnect in order to stay with her husband.
So
now,
they were spying on you?
Yes.
This whole time?
That's a whole entire interview in itself. But anyway, so my mom did end up disconnecting from me. It was devastating for both of us. In fact, my aunt, her sister, who had never been in Scientology, called me at one point and said, "Your mother is so depressed about this, I'm worried that she's suicidal." And now I just totally freaked out. And, I went and saw her and started sneaking again. I don't care, I want to be able to respect if her husband wants to be in Scientology and stuff like that, but I'm not going to let this get between the family. So that also sparked me writing a book to expose the human right violations that go on in Scientology, because the family disconnection enforcement is a major part of it. The assault and battery being committed by the head of the church is a major part of it. And, the fact that they empty parishioners' bank accounts for the different service, what they do with how they treat children in this organization is substandard, and their aggressive handling of critics is unbelievable. So I wrote my book mainly for myself, because it was very cathartic, to write it and to really, what did I experience? What was my life? What happened? What did I go through?
Sure.
And then I spoke out and to the St. Petersburg Times in the series that they put out called The Truth Rundown. It was several of us that broke away from international management and exposed what was going on behind the scenes. That was extremely explosive because it's, Scientology does not like to be held in a bad light, let alone exposing what the top is doing with firsthand graphic information.
Right. I actually was in St. Petersburg, Florida, when that came out.
Yes.
And I was on vacation. It was just a coincidence I happened to be there. And I remember reading about, I know that you guys talked a lot about the town itself, St. Petersburg, how it is so in the hands of the Church of Scientology that they've bought most of those buildings, and they don't like people walking around poking their nose into things. People will come up and ask you what you're doing, that type of thing. And I was really taken aback. We were actually, what's right next to St. Pete's? Clearwater. We were in. Oh wait, no, we were in St. Pete's, and it's Clearwater, right? That they've sort of taken over, or is it St. Pete's?
Yes, it's Clearwater.
Clearwater, yeah, just amazing. And it's been such sort of a quiet takeover of these types of, you don't realize, you hear about so many people, celebrities who belong to the Church of Scientology, but myself, I don't know anybody who belongs to it. I've never known anybody who belongs to it.
And I don't think there's actually all that many celebrities. You hear about Tom Cruise, John Travolta,
right,
and Kirstie Alley and stuff, but John isn't sitting there promoting Scientology. Tom actually hasn't really been since his episodes, on
right,
Matt Lauer and stuff, been doing a lot of promotion. I don't see Kirstie Alley doing the promote. What celebrity is standing up and saying, "I am a Scientologist"?
Right. That's and like Tom Cruise, he's become kind of a laughing stock, right? He probably wouldn't do much good.
He is a laughing stock, and it's really a shame because he stood up on the stage when he received this Medal of Valor from David Miscavige. And he said that David Miscavige was the most compassionate, wonderful leader. He's the leader of leaders, and that he should know because he's met them all, like all the leaders of the world. Come on, Tom, stop kidding yourself. And then number one, that's not true. And number two, it's completely irresponsible for him to make statements like that and hold them up as like some sort of, supreme example when he beats people, he confines people. I mean, I could tell you a lot of information about what he does that's actually torture. I went to the FBI, and so did several other people who with firsthand information, and not just 5 years ago, people recently who left, and over the last year and two, and they provided the information to the authorities. I don't know why nothing more is being done about it, other than they're afraid because it's classified as a religion, that they're free to practice the religion how they would like. But I think they break the law, and it's not okay.
Well, you hear a lot about Scientology, the church going after people that give negative publicity about them, that write books, or expose their so-called secrets. And we were talking about the Time magazine article that came out back in 1991 that was very critical of Scientology, and that they actually launched like a $450 million lawsuit against Time magazine and its owners, and that they, I remember reading that L. Ron Hubbard's wife went to prison for being involved in a conspiracy to like wiretap and break into government offices that were investigating Scientology for corruption.
It wasn't even just a conspiracy; they did that.
Yeah.
It was several people went to jail for that, including L. Ron Hubbard's wife.
Wow.
So would you personally classify Scientology as a cult?
Yes. I do, because, part of my re-educating myself when I got out of Scientology, it's really quite something, because I left, I had $150 to my name. I didn't know how to drive. I never cooked before in my life, except for I made toast when I was 13 years old, but that was it,
Wow.
And I didn't have a bank account. I was just lost. And luckily I had, my husband, and we really figured things out and got going. But the craziness is, like, I really had to discover for myself, like, what was I involved in? And I read some books that were really fantastic, like Combating Cult Mind Control. And I learned that, all the classifications of what a cult is, Scientology fits them so perfectly. I mean, they do information control. We couldn't have televisions. We couldn't listen to the radio. We couldn't watch TV, and get the information of what was happening in the world. It was so controlled.
Well, I think the sauna and the niacin and those types of what they had you do, that's almost like what cults do in, withholding food, or, it's like assaulting the body. So I don't understand actually how these people, unless it was for obviously a shorter period of time, that they come out feeling good, because I can just imagine after 5 hours that you sat in a sauna, you must have been exhausted.
Do that for 8 months straight.
I mean, wow. That would break you down. I just can't even imagine.
It did. Believe me, it did.
One other question here before, I don't know, we're probably running out of time, but one of our listeners had a question that I actually am kind of curious about. Do you still, now that you've gotten out of Scientology, do you see any validity within Scientology as a faith, as a belief system?
I have a lot of friends that still practice Scientology, and I really encourage people to believe whatever they want to believe, because that is a right. But when it comes to the organization, it's completely corrupt, and it needs to be dismantled completely. There's plenty of all the information with regards to Scientology in terms of its technology is all available on the internet. There's plenty of people that practice it outside of the organization itself. So if anyone's interested in doing that, they should just get on the internet and check it out if they want to. I don't practice Scientology anymore, but I respect my friends that do.
Gotcha. I just want to hold on. I just want to remind our listeners really quick that you are listening to Amy Scobee, and her website is scobeepublishing.com.
I wanted to ask you, Amy, too, have you been threatened or been sued by the church since you've published your book about them?
I've been threatened. I have not been sued because my book does not tell lies. I was not afraid. I self-published just because too much pressure has been brought to bear to other publishing companies when a ex-Scientologist tries to put their book out. So I published my book myself, and I received a letter from Burt Fields, which is Tom Cruise's lawyer, basically threatening me if I put out my book that he would, look into the possibility of of suing me. But half of the things that he said, that I said in my book, I didn't say in my book, so he's just listening to somebody and then sending me a threat letter. And in some article with a New York magazine, one of their PR spokespersons were quoted as saying that they were, that they started putting a suit together for me or whatever. Nothing ever transpired for that. I'm not worried about it. I welcome it. If they want to sue me, that's okay, because I've got so many people that have left that saw exactly what it is that I saw, and all their accounts can just be, come forward. And I would love for that to happen. Gotcha. So I really have no backup other than I don't have any money for lawyers, but I'm sure that I could get somebody to represent me if needed. Sure. But that would be really, really dumb, because all of their dirty crimes would be exposed. And that happened recently with Debbie Cook. They sued Debbie Cook to basically get her to shut up. She is somebody who was in charge of the Flag Service Organization for like 25 years. She sent out a letter to Scientologists saying that certain practices that they were doing in the organization were against policy, and she was sued for doing that. And so she gets up on the stage, up on the bench, and she starts telling of some of the torture things that went on when she was there. They couldn't get her to shut up fast enough, man. They settled, they signed things, they did anything to stop that court case. But so the stuff is getting made known.
Now, Amy, I got a question for you here too, and this is probably the $1 million question because of what's been going on recently. And you don't have to say anything you don't want to say, but maybe just your take. But the whole Tom Cruise, Katie Holmes situation. What do you think, based on what you've seen and what you know about Scientology, is the reason that Katie has all of a sudden just bailed out from Tom Cruise? Do you think that it's a fear of what's going to happen with the child, or?
I think a couple things. I think that she wanted her independence. There's not Tom Cruise being like such a dedicated Scientologist and says you're either in 100% or you're out. I think that she wanted to declare her independence. She obviously planned this. It wasn't too sudden, because she obviously had all of her ducks in a row before she filed. And she fired. Okay, when I was in Scientology, in the Sea organization, I did a project for David Miscavige of hiring Scientologists for Tom Cruise's household. People like for the executive housekeeper, the maid, the cleaner, the cook, things like that, to surround him with Scientology, which helps plant him firmly in the church. It was part of a whole ongoing process to really get him, firmly in Scientology. Those people would also say in their auditing what was going on in the household, so you kind of had a grip on everything that was always going on. They're not, really free. They're really kind of controlled. They have the hired staff report back, to the church. The session information that they have when they get their counseling goes to the top of the organization, to Miscavige, so he knows what's coming up in their confessionals and everything. I've heard what's come up in people's confessionals because he talks about it after he has heard it. And then Katie had like a personal handler from Scientology hanging around with her all the time. So it's not always overt, overtly what you see, but behind the scenes you've got a lot of control actually from Scientology, and I don't think that she wanted to do that anymore. I also think that she got educated on what actually is going on behind the scenes, because I understand that her father was reading the internet and seeing the interviews and reading the information, and hopefully telling her and alerting her to, before you get completely entrapped, take a look at this stuff. I really hope that that's what went on. That's one of the reasons I'm speaking out, because not just for Katie, but for a lot of people who are in a similar situation.
So they know that they can get out. They're not stuck.
So that they know, yes, and that it is okay. And, that if they want to practice Scientology, practice it outside of the clutches of the organization, that all-controlling organization.
Can I ask one final question? We had a gentleman who had called in a little bit earlier, and his question goes right in line with actually what my question was, and I'm really interested. What is the church's stance on homosexuality?
It's considered an aberration, and an aberration is in Scientology is a not straight line or a crooked thinking. It's something that stems from your reactive mind. And so therefore it's something to be addressed in your auditing so that it's corrected as a fault. So yeah, when somebody has that situation, it's considered something that needs to be addressed with confessionals, addressed with auditing procedures and stuff like that until it's corrected so that they're normal, quote unquote. That comes from L. Ron Hubbard. In the Science of Survival, he was talking about it being, comparing it to leprosy.
Wow. I had a feeling that was probably the take on it. And I always had sort of had, there's all these rumors, and there's a news story today out about John Travolta. And I wondered if, and there have been rumors about Tom Cruise forever and a day too. And I wondered whether the church itself also possibly would go after or try to draw in stars or celebrities who may be gay and tell them that they can sort of fix them through their cleansing. Or do you see that? Would you say that's totally wrong? Or
that wouldn't really be the case.
Okay.
One of the things that L. Ron Hubbard says is that, we're here to make the able more able. And so you're not looking for somebody who's got a problem, necessarily.
Okay.
Like, you want, if someone's a big star, I think they'll take them no matter what.
Okay.
Right.
That makes sense. They have a pocket.
But you're not looking for that specifically.
Okay.
Well, Amy, we want to thank you for joining us here on the show tonight. We really do appreciate it, and we are going to definitely keep our listeners and visitors to our website directed towards your website, which is ScobeePublishing.com. If you want to pick up your copy of the book, Scientology Abuse at the Top, I definitely recommend that you do so. We'd like to have you on again here in the near future if you're willing to come back.
I would love to, no problem.
Awesome. Well, have a good night, and thanks again for joining us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
All right, well, wow, that's a lot of information. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll kind of recap what we went over tonight. You're listening to EXS Radio.
Waging war against Big Brother, mainstream media, and global propaganda. Experience the difference of EXS Radio.